Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Chats with Dylan Nav. And if you're new here, I'm Dr. Dylan Cahill, recent graduate of Harvard Medical School.
I'm Dr. Naveed Ghaffari.
And between the two of us, we've edited hundreds of med school applications over the last few years and advised students in all parts of the med school application process. And today we wanted to share some insights into the key process of the application, which is secondary essays. So for that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Ghaffari. So what are the secondary essays? What do we need to know to get started on those?
Yes. So at this point, you've probably submitted your primary application. Congratulations. A lot went into that. The next step is the secondaries.
No question about it. I am ready to get hurt again.
And so now that you've identified all the schools in your primary that you're sending your application to, the next step is for them to send you secondaries, which is a certain amount of essays. Most schools are going to send you secondaries. There are some schools that will do some screening. And so if you get a secondary from them, that could be that you've made it through like another layer. But depending on the school, there's a variable number of essays that you're going to get. And the lengths of them also can differ in terms of word and character counts. Importantly, there are a lot of possible questions they can ask, but there are some questions that come up more than others. And that's what we can define as like high yield. Some of those questions involve why you're in medicine, talking about how you think you're going to bring diversity, talking about adversities, and also, why you want to come to X school. So what we would recommend is certainly at this stage of submitting your application and waiting for your application to get verified and hear back from the secondaries, which usually takes on the order of a few weeks to a month. This is a really important time to pre-write. Why? Because when you start to get the secondaries, it is just like a tsunami. I remember, I think at some point I applied to around 35 to 40 schools, and I think I was getting maybe around 6 a day for a couple, week or two. And it was just, coming in and you're trying to turn it around fast. But of course, wanting the quality to be really good. And so pre-write. I'll turn it back to Dr. Cahill.
Yes, definitely recommend pre-writing. By the time you finish your primary application, you've edited every essay carefully, you've perfected your personal statement, you probably want to relax a little bit and think, I have a few weeks before the application is verified and the secondaries start rolling in, but it will be like a storm. My experience, I applied to 25 schools, and I think it was like the first one you get is like exciting, like, whoa, like someone received my application and now I get to fill out additional essays.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
And the next day you get like 3 and you're like, whoa, this is cool. And then the next day you get like 8 and you're like, stop. And then you have to write and you're like, one thing I want to get at is the importance of staying organized. So I would recommend creating a simple Excel spreadsheet. List every school you applied to, and then where you're at in your application. Has your application been verified? Are they waiting on anything like your MCAT scores or letter of recommendations? Make sure all of that's ready, because even if you get your secondary in, they probably won't even read it until you have a fully complete application. But then an important other column for every single school in your spreadsheet should be the day you received your secondary essay. Now, there's sort of a rule of thumb, at least in pre-med lore, that you should never take more than 2 weeks to submit a secondary. And frankly, I think it's a good rule to aim for to really show your interest in a school is, a 2-week time frame, especially when they're only asking you to submit 2 to 5 essays that are around a paragraph in length on average. You should be able to do that.
Just do it!
But if you have 10 you're working at the same time, that's where you could see you could start to run into some issues. So have an organized spreadsheet where you're keeping track of everything when they come in and when you've submitted them, so that you can be on top of this process and be proactive rather than take a reactive role.
Yes, the organization is absolutely key. I think laying that out in the spreadsheet is really nice. And especially when you do have a lot of schools that you're juggling at the same time, it's important to prioritize. So the schools that you're more interested in, you'll want to try to gear your efforts to them. At the same time, you also want to look at the fact that not all the schools have the same number. Some schools have a lot of secondary, some schools might just have a few. And so even if the school is sort of medium to low priority, if you already have most of their essays already written, it could be worth spending the time to just at least turn that one around. And while this general within 2 weeks is recommended, I would say the faster you can turn it around, the better.
This is so important, I should run to answer it.
but not at the compromise of quality. Because the faster you turn it around, the sooner you can get an interview invite, the sooner you can interview, and hopefully the sooner you can hear good news that you got in.
And I'll even just add one last story. One of the schools I was very interested in at the time was Yale. So when I got their secondary, I made sure to get that back in like 24 hours. And then I didn't even get an interview invite from them. So just know that you'll do your best in the process, but random things can happen. But the importance is really to just be prepared, be proactive, and then, then it's not as overwhelming. One last tip I'll throw in, by the way, is it helps to have a buddy in this process. Maybe it's another applicant going through this process at the same time as you. You can kind of edit each other's essays. Maybe it's some mentor, even a parent or someone to just look over your essays with a fresh set of eyes. This was actually the only time in my life that I subscribed to like the pro version or whatever the premium version of Grammarly is for like 1 to 2 months, just to also have that extra look over my essays as I was doing it. So just having a little extra support so that you're not just sending garbage essays, that you're doing it as fast as you can. Like to emphasize what Dr. Ghaffari said, is definitely quality still matters here as much as anywhere else in your application. While from your perspective, you might be juggling 20 or 30 schools worth of secondary essays, remember from that individual school, all they have is your primary application and the secondary for that one school. So you still want to make it count. So hope this was helpful, and we'll put out some more videos like this in the near future.